Cyril, what a beauty! Hawthorne.
I don't believe it! I see it, but I don't believe it! Claus with a capital C! How did he do it?
Leon Barry, you star! Oh my goodness! Is this one to remember?
G'day, community, and welcome to the Jock, Reynolds, Supercoach podcast. I am Lekdog. I'm joined by two beautiful men today. Well, it's been just one for the last few weeks, Patch. It's been you and me, but we're joined by one very sexy man.
We are.
Yeah,
Damo.
I'm here. I've been released from the WA time warp, and let's not do that again.
I think everyone should all be on the same time zone at all times.
Agreed. Get rid of it all. It's
And
6 o'clock everywhere. Deal with it.
It should be based around where I live, because I want the sun. Damo, how's the AFL season going for you? How's the Supercoach season going for you? We haven't heard from you on this podcast in a couple of weeks, but of course, you've been killing it on the question and answer podcast, the Mailbag.
I mean, my team could be going better, but it could be going worse. Haven't had a great start, but haven't had an awful start.
Well, that's positive. I think the first couple of weeks, unless you're going to win the prize, don't matter a hell of a lot, to be honest. Maybe that's a hot take.
No, I think we saw someone release something that was like the past winners after round one were like 34k, 28k, 43k, or something along those lines.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
I'm telling you, there is a chance.
Were any of them 60k asking for for me?
I don't remember.
I'm going to take that as a maybe.
Well, Patch, I didn't want to bring up football in front of you, but this is a football podcast, so it is going to be difficult to avoid.
Oh, the Dons are 0-3, the Potatoes are 0-3, and I am, oh, geez, are you okay? Oh.
But only 0-3 in the practice matches.
Yeah, oh, when the real stuff starts next week, it'll be great. I'm very excited to see how long I can drag the practice matches gag out for. And if I'm still doing it by round 7, please shoot me.
Well, before shooting you, let's look at some positivity. We're going to go through one positive thing from each of our teams before we talk about one negative from each of our teams. And I'm going to go first. And I'm going to offer up this positivity. The positivity of not trading some of my players. Jordan Ridley, I did not trade. He scored 115. Lachie Whitfield, I did not trade. He scored 96. Max Gawn, I did not trade. He scored 117. And Jade Gresham, I did not trade, and he scored 102 points. So my positivity for this week is not trading players that I researched heading into the season.
Well done. Well done. All of the silly people who traded Jack Steele are now 250 odd points poorer for it. So there we go. There we go.
Patch, what's a positivity from your side?
I'm going to say Will Brodie's the positive. I saw the opening and, I was skeptical, and he'd heard me be skeptical all preseason, that I'm like, hey, with the sub, I'm worried. Low tog, like one trick pony. I'm scared. And now all of Fremantle's midfield is missing, and I'm no longer scared, and I embraced it, and he scored 90 and made 60k. He made a lot of money and will make a bunch more money over the next month, and I feel at peace. I feel happy that I brought him in.
No, I think, look, he's been solid, and I too was skeptical, but Damo remained steadfast that he would be a good selection, and Damo, to this point, he has been a good selection. Who else has been a good selection for you?
I like that we paid about 260k for a forward keeper in Stephen Canelio.
Hasn't he been bloody brilliant? He's been amazing. 149 against the Gold Coast, and forward mid flexibility. This guy averaging 109.3. Damo, we knew he could do it.
Owning Giants players scare the crap out of me because Leon Cameron exists, and drops players because they looked at a blade of grass funny. So it's really interesting to see him keep this roll up. I mean, he didn't have the greatest start to the season, and we were like, well, at 260k, we don't need to keep him. And then these last 2 weeks, maybe we do need to keep him.
On the flip side, though, maybe Toby Green comes back and Toby Green goes into the midfield and Cornelio plays forward because that's how Leon Cameron's brain works.
Don't scare me
I
like
don't know.
that.
Please, Patch. He's going to play Tom Green forward. Don't worry about that.
Shut up. Shut up, okay? Shut up. We'll talk about that later.
All right, well, let's talk about something negative from our week in Supercoach. And to be honest, there's not a lot to choose from. I had a reasonable score this week, but
Yeah, shut up, you.
I'll take the easy one off the board, and I'll say Zach Butters, 58 points from the entire game. But Damo, you said that all happened in about 6 seconds or something like that.
He scored like 13 points or something up until halftime, and then scored the rest of his points after halftime. And he did go off with an ankle injury and was being treated on the sidelines for quite a long time, and then took a while to get back into it once he went back on the field.
So what was the cause of the low score? I was unable to watch the Port Crows game. I saw the end of it after the Essendon game, but what was actually happening there?
So he got his ankle trapped under someone. No, sorry. Sam Pepper tried to tackle the player that Zach Butters was already tackling and crunched him.
Yeah, okay. Right. So he copped an injury early and then struggled after that.
Yeah.
That's right. That's fixable.
He got better after halftime, but he took a while to get his wind back.
Patch, do you have a something negative you'd like to get off your chest?
How many do I have?
You get one main one, but if like me, you can squeeze it into one little package, you're welcome to.
I will go with the opposite of your good thing in that last week I came on this podcast and said, Heath Chapman will be fine. Don't panic about it. He will come good. Jake Bowie might not be the be all and end all. And then I got to Friday night at 6:55 p.m. and I traded Heath Chapman to Jake Bowie, and Chapman outscored him.
Chapman scored 101, Bowie scored 89, I believe. There are worse trades that have been made. At least you banked a little bit of cash, right?
A tiny bit of cash. Bowie's made the cash quicker. I guess, like, sure, it's okay. It
doesn't fill you with joy.
No, it does not spark joy. And thus I sit in the bin on my
Damo,
own.
do you have something negative you need to get off your chest in this safe space?
Yeah, where the hell did my midfield go on the weekend?
Well, what happened in midfield? Who didn't perform for you?
Jack Macrae, 92. He was my vice captain. Took Miller, 76. He was tagged by Matt DeBoer. Andrew Brayshaw, 96. He was tagged by Jackson Nelson until Jackson Nelson decided to go, stuff it, it's not working anyway. And then Lachie Neale, Lachie Neale was actually my captain, and I was happy with 105 because that was the highest score in my midfield last week. Last round. Whatever you want to call it.
It was a tough round for captaincies. I did suggest that Jack Macrae would have a bad game, although people did not heed my warning. But yes, it felt like a week where everyone who had Lachie Neale as captain said, oh, Jesus, thank God, at least he got 105.
And that's like not even a good captaincy score, but I mean, in the scheme of things, it was the best captaincy score that most people had.
Yeah, legitimately. All right, fellas, before we get into the bulk of the podcast, we're going to have a look at some cash cows this week because there are players who, despite this being the fourth round of the season, on the bubble, which is our least favorite time because some of these guys are decent players. So Nic Martin...
second least favorite time after round 23.
Well, yes. Nic Martin, top of everyone's lips. A lot of people already own him, but break even of a negative 124, projected to rise $97,000 this week. He's only 102k forward, averaging 93. Patch, you know this man better than anyone. If, like me, people are out there and they have 30 playing players. Should they be sideways trading a rookie to this man?
Nah, he's no good. Plays for the Bombers, shit team.
But-
Haven't started playing real games yet.
But Patch, isn't he Essendon's Lord and Saviour in the absence of Zach Merritt?
He is, but also if our Lord and Saviour is a 2-game 21-year-old, then we deserve whatever's below the spoon. But yes, you need to bring him in. I don't care who you move on like Josh Dunkley for all I care. Get Nic Martin into your team right now.
Well, if you
Horses
like what's his name, Brady Hugh, or even like a Ward or a McDonald, Dylan Stevens struggling on the weekend. If you got one of these guys, do you move one? Is it okay to move one of these guys to Nic Martin?
Absolutely. Do it. Fire away. Do it now. Pause this podcast immediately, go and do it, and then come back and listen to the rest of this pod.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good one. Also on the bubble, Damo, I don't know what's going on over in WA. Willie Rioli, 225k, break even of -40, averaging 87 from his 2 games. Is he someone that we need to have on our radar at all?
When West Coast can stop their COVID outbreak, no.
We'll kick through these other bubble boys because I don't think a lot of them are going to be attracting attention. Hugh Dixon owners, Damo, you think might need to move him on this week despite only playing 2 games?
Wait for team selection, but I don't know if he holds his place ahead of Bailey Williams, but who knows? West Coast might still have 15 changes this week.
Certainly probably not someone we're looking to bring into our team for cash generation. Patch, Lachie Gallant, or Gollant, I don't know how to say it. It's definitely not Gollant. $123,900 forward, break even of -48, projected to go up 42k, 79 on the weekend for Adelaide. Are we looking at him, or are we wary of a Tex Walker return?
So are we bringing him in? We Gallant bringing him in is what we're
Most of his score would have been the 4 goals that he kicked.
Are we ignoring the hot fire?
I'm just talking over Patch just because.
Man, you're so hip and with it. These last few podcasts, Patch, you've been down with it.
I am crack-a-lackin', as the kids say. I mean, he'll play. Maybe he'll it's the awkward time of year. Who are you trading to him? No one. Maybe if Dixon's not named and you're desperate for 30 playing players, like I don't know. It's not. Yeah, I'm not like. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll run through the rest of these guys because I don't think we're looking to trade any of them in. You guys yell out if we are. Thompson Dow scored 100 on the weekend, but I don't know that that's someone we're looking to bring in. Tanner Brun scored 82, averaging 81. Probably not someone we're looking to bring in. Brady Hugh, Jackson Nelson, Sam Skinner was injured on the weekend, should still play, but probably not someone we're looking to bring in. And then you're looking all the way down at your likes of like a Sam DeConning, Nazaya, Wanganeen, Malera, etc. I don't think any of these guys.
You missed a name there, Lekdog.
You did miss a name there.
Which name did I miss?
You missed Nathan O'Driscoll.
I haven't scrolled down far enough to see him, if I'm being honest with you.
He's 123k defensive midfielder. His growth in terms of money generation will be stunted for the first few weeks because he was a sub in his first game. God damn it, why did that happen? But
Boo.
49 in his second game. Hopefully he spends more time on ground the more games he plays, but it seems like he's resumed the Will Brodie role of being on the bench every 5 seconds at the moment. So hopefully when Fremantle get their midfield back, he isn't pushed out, because I actually think he's better than some others who seem to not lose their place at all ever. And he can continue to score better than 49 and spend more time on ground and be a good player in dual position.
So what's the advice there, Damo? Are you telling people that they should look to bring him in, or is he only someone we should look at if we've got a hole or a zero? And does he rate above all these other guys outside of like a Nic Martin?
He definitely doesn't rate higher than Nic Martin, but I And there are some people that started with him knowing that he would play later on. I would stick with him if you have him. I wouldn't move heaven and earth to bring him into your team, and I certainly wouldn't trade him in ahead of Nic Martin.
That's good to know. I think for the most part, these that we've gone over all the cash generating tools. Unless you've got anything else to add, Patcharoo.
I'm bringing Sam De Koning into my team this week, but mainly so Paddy McCartan's not stuck in my back line. I can play Mitch Hinge at D6, and McCartan can play up forward. At this stage, I'm stuck with just picking one of them in the back line, but certainly not an essential cash generation tool, more to give myself some flexibility down the line should I need it, as well as a little bit of cash generations with Mitchito Owens coming out of the side.
You've also got a Sam Skinner there as an option. He was injured, but they have said in today's injury report, recording this on the Monday, that he is a test to play. So that's another option, but I do prefer Sam De Koning of the two. Gentlemen, let's push forward. And there is a bunch of interesting questions we have to ask ourselves about premiums that aren't performing and guys who are probably overperforming. I don't know where we want to start. Last week we started in the ruck line. Do we just start there again and breeze through it very quickly? Because as you said last week, Patch, the ruck line is the forward line.
It's the poor man's forward line, and on this blessed day, we are all poor men. It's slightly less poor this week. It's more of a drizzle. Max Gawn, 117, rewarding those who didn't trade him out. Brody Grundy, 96, but rucks have struggled against Geelong for a long, long time, so that's not a massive surprise on that front. Outside of that, is Nick Nat back? Tim English is probably the one we should be talking about, though, despite being ruck forward, 152 points on the weekend. Do we need to bring him in before he gets too expensive?
I'm scared of Tim English because I know Luke Beveridge will bring in Stephen Martin. Tim English will be stuck in the forward line and he'll average 80.
See, I think you're giving Bevo too much credit there, Damo. I think Bevo's going to be... He's so steadfast in only wanting to play one ruck. They have other ruckmen on their list, and they've not gone with a two-ruck setup. So,
I mean, look at them. They've got Caleb Daniel, they've got Mitch Hannon, they've got Jamari Ugle-Hagan,
Josh Dunkley.
Dunkley. None of them are getting a run in the ruck. Well, actually, Mitch Hannon is, but...
I'm less worried about Steph Martin and just more worried about Bevo Salad, so in general. But I think he's a reasonably safe selection. What I don't know is that heading into round 4, 1 week after the price rises, where he has pumped out a 152 and risen up 39k already, who the hell are we trading him to? Are you trading Max Gawn or Brody Grundy? Are you trading Zach Butters and upgrading to Tim English? Like, what are we doing to get him in? Do either of you have a thought on that?
If you've got Sean Darcy, Damo, would you trade Sean Darcy to Tim English?
I mean, Sean Darcy scored 70 points in his sleep against St Kilda last week. So there's no denying that Sean Darcy can score, but there's also no denying that Sean Darcy is made of paper mache at the moment either. So if you're still holding on to Sean Darcy, I don't know why you are still holding on to Sean Darcy, and you should move him on.
Well, the reason you might be holding on to Sean Darcy is because it's Preuss season, baby.
It is.
Lekdog, talk to me about the Preuss Moose.
I mean, look, Preuss is back, baby, in a big way. He was pretty damn good against Gold Coast, but we've got to underline that sentence with against Gold Coast. But as we've said all along, sure, they've got a lot of ruck confusion at GWS. Leon Cameron doesn't really know who he wants in the ruck, but when the risk is only $204,700 for Braden Preuss, I think it's a risk that we need to look at. If you don't have him, you cannot sit him at R2. I do not think you can sit him at R2, Patch, but I also don't know if it's worth upgrading one of our rookies by like $100,000 to get him, especially if it's going to require 2 trades.
I'll just throw this out there. If Hugh Dixon plays this week, Braden Preuss's price is not going to move. And if you've got enough cash in the bank, it could possibly be a one trade there, just Dixon to Preuss.
It's actually a good point, Damo. Patch, I think he's right on that, in that we can spend another week gathering data on Braden Preuss. I think that's really important. I think a lot of people jump early on these sort of opportunities. I reckon the safest play is to wait a week, take a look at him, and then have another decision. Like, we might be able to go Jack Hayes to Braden Preuss next week and make money.
Yeah, that's absolutely on the cards. Or if you bought in like a Ginnivan or someone who had a really big round one, even Reilly, you can swing your Hayes or Dixon forward, and then bring Preuss in. One to consider for next week, but certainly for the love of all that is holy, do not bring him in this week, because there's every chance that he scores 200. There's every chance he doesn't play next week, because he walks under a ladder, he steps on a cat, Leon Cameron throws him in the hole.
Goes in the hole again. So I think we can probably move on from Rucks. I think obviously the main target will be Tim English. I'm not going to be against anyone trading him in, but I think largely this is a week for not
Can we quickly
trading.
talk about Reilly O'Brien?
Yeah, well, yeah. We can talk about Barron's boy.
92, 110, and 122 in his first 3 weeks. No one even thought about him in the preseason.
I thought about him as like a get out of the way. I have to scroll past you.
Yeah, he certainly was on the list of players in Supercoach. So I guess in that sense, I thought about him. But he's a guy who probably underperformed slightly on what we expected he would last year. Didn't look amazing to me in the preseason, but comes in and he has performed at level. Had 45 hitouts against Port Adelaide. I'm not confident he can do that every single week, but 9 tackles as well. So he was in and around it. But yeah, another guy that I'm looking at if I'm a Preuss R2 owner or a Hayes R2 owner. The longer we can delay a decision on these guys, the more data we can get, and potentially the bigger savings we can have when we go shopping for them. So I think for the most part in the ruck line, it's probably a wait and see situation for a lot of these guys.
Shall we head to the forward line?
Do we have to?
That's the rich man's ruck line, apparently, judging from what I was saying earlier, which, looking at the forward line, does not feel true. Oh dear. Isaac Heaney scored what I think he's going to average, kind of in between there and 100 for the rest of the season. So that's coming back down to earth. Luke Jackson came down to earth. A bunch of players all kind of did what we expected them to.
Yeah, they did. I'm never one to bank on the forward line being consistent, so I'm okay with it. It's worth noting Jordan De Goey, by the way, is suspended, so he'll miss round 4. If you're an owner, I'm not saying it's worth jumping off him. I'm just letting you know that he's suspended and he's probably been slightly underwhelming. I'm excited, Patch. I know it was in a smashing. I know it was against North, but Zach Bailey just keeps showing us reasons why he's going to be a jet in Supercoach at some stage.
He looks good. Scored 129. One to keep an eye on for that early upgrade. One that I'm keeping an eye on for potentially...
Lincoln McCarthy scored 116.
I was just about to say that. He's averaging 100. He scored 116. He's averaging 91.3.
Lincoln McCarthy's good.
And last season he was a top 20 forward for total points scored.
97, 61, 116. He's a beast.
Please stop. Please. You know how I said ask you to shoot me earlier? Whatever that threshold was, bring it forward to right now, this very second. Right after I talk about Daniel Reilly, who we didn't cover a huge amount in the preseason because we didn't know if the halfback role would be real. It's real, ladies and gentlemen. 71 in round 1, 111 in round 2, 107 in round 3 against St Kilda. Defense forward swing. He has put on a little bit of cash. The 40k price rise, still sub 400k at $376,000 dues. If you're jumping off Jordan De Goey, you could do worse than Danny Rioli. I don't know why you'd be trading a Danny Rioli in, but one to keep an eye on and one that I'm certainly keeping a close eye on.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with Daniel Rioli. I wouldn't feel good bringing him into my classic team, but I felt pretty good bringing him into my draft team.
Oh man, if you can snag him off a waiver wire, you're absolutely laughing all the way to the bank. Yep, look, the role was touted, but we didn't actually see him deliver on it. And it's just annoying that it's come in the regular season. It's a very awkward time to try and grab someone at 376k.
It is.
But having said that, he's looking really solid, and we might find him, being a really valuable, flexible defensive forward player for us later on in the year. I just can't see any way to bring him in. And similar guy in that boat is my boy. I'm claiming him, even though Craig should claim him. Jade Gresham, he's played pretty well. The downside for him, though, is that when the game's on the line, they'll throw him forward, and if it doesn't get to him, it does affect his scoring. But another guy who's just cheap, probably flying under the radar a bit and scoring pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. Damo, is there anyone that stood out to you in the forward line?
Tim Taranto has not been hampered by playing some minutes forward. He's still doing quite well for those that held the faith. He was in my thinking for my team before Leon Cameron fronted the cameras and said that we'd be playing him forward in the absence of Toby Green, and turns out that hasn't really mattered.
No, he's been good. He's been bloody good. I never had an issue with him as a selection. He could score last year playing forward. He can score this year playing forward. And at some stage, maybe they'll play him exclusively as a midfielder up in GWS, maybe when they get a different coach. But I think primarily for me, everyone else who's performing really well, everyone already owns.
Yep, agreed. Shall we swing into the midfield or the back line? We'll save the back line for last.
Back line. You want to go back line last? All right, let's go to the midfield.
Midfield feels a bit quicker, a bit punchier.
Yep.
Also, we get the Tom Green discussion out of the way early. Averaging 139, 502k, has just gone up 72k, scored 147 this week, scored 106 last week, 164 in round one. Is it Tom Green season, or are we expecting some midfielders to roll back into the middle once Toby Green is back?
The way he's playing, you'd expect any normal coach to keep him in there and keep him doing his thing, because he has been so impressive.
How long is Jacob Hopper out for?
I feel like they were only resting him for the week. I could be wrong, but I thought he was fine and they were just resting him. I
think Tom Green will be okay as long as Jacob Hopper is out. Here we go. Jacob Hopper will be sidelined for an extended period with a knee injury.
Oh, wow. There you go. So Hopper out. There's some room in the midfield. They've got Toby Green to come back. He's not due back for another, 2 or 3 weeks?
Something like that.
I mean, I have no qualms with picking him up, just that I reckon his consistency will dip a little bit towards the middle of the season as he gets a bit tired. He's still a relatively young guy and the midfield's pretty demanding, but I mean, there's all signs point to yes.
We love to see it. Cripps continued to do his thing with 119, which Lekdog, you must be pretty happy with.
Yeah, pretty happy with him. Traded him in against my belief that if I do things to Carlton, bad things happen. But he came into my team. 119 was reasonably solid. And the midfield mix was interesting to watch. The full squad was back, and it kind of played out how I thought it was going to. Kennedy, for large parts of the game, was still in there, but then found himself resting. Well, spent a lot of time on the bench. So did George Hewitt. But the mix is looking okay, and Walsh and Chera found themselves on the outside a little bit more. It's an interesting setup, but I still think George Hewitt and Paddy Cripps are the guys who are going to keep scoring.
There was some mad scaling at the end of that game though, because at full time Cripps was only on 95 points.
Yeah, there was a heap of points left to scale. I know George Hewitt was stuck on like 20 points for. It felt like a whole quarter as well. He was just stuck on the bench, couldn't get on the field. But just the way that those two in particular accumulate their ball, it's like all contested. It's just what champion data love. So I think they're going to be able to keep doing that as long as they're healthy. So it's good to see. One guy patch that once again flies under the radar. Travis Boak has done it again.
Does it every single year.
Except last year when I picked him.
Well, yeah, except when you pick him. I mean, that's the rule. If you pick him, you're breaking the spell.
But geez, he's looked good. Any concerns over how effective Damo the tag was on Took Miller?
I mean, it's Matt DeBoer, so no, Matt DeBoer is a very effective tagger. People are going to tag the best midfielders if they cause a problem in too many games in a row. So I'm not fussed of the Took Miller tag. I don't think he gets tagged every week. I don't think he's Gold Coast's most explosive midfielder, but he does make a lot of things happen, and clearly him being tagged meant that Gold Coast couldn't do a lot.
That's fair. I think and he didn't have a hell of a lot of support in there either.
No, and I think, to be clear, we're not advocating trading out any of the players that underperformed.
Oh, no. Opposite. I'm thinking about who we can target moving down the track, like Took Miller, Jack Steele, Marcus Bontempelli. These are all guys in a few weeks that are going to start looking very, very tasty.
Absolutely. At the other end of the scale, Josh Ward hasn't quite had the start of the year that we expected or hoped from him. 143 points from his first 3 games, averaging the 47. Half of all teams playing Supercoach have him. His break even is it's 9, which he'll make. That won't be an issue. We'll only make the 17.2k though, and then the week after we'll struggle again to continue to add to that cash flow. Do we wait another week and see if there are more rookies on the way? Damo Neil Erasmus played his first game.
I'm going to be honest. If Neil Erasmus gets his second game, and then gets his third game, I'm probably going to bank that 60k and turn Josh Ward into Neil Erasmus.
It's not just Josh Ward that's in this position. It's Dylan Stevens. It's Josh Rochelle. There's a few guys here that
Josh Gibkiss.
Josh Gibkiss. I mean, Josh Gibkiss, we kind of knew was going to happen. We were just forced to pick him because of the dearth of defenders that we had available. But there are some guys that, for what we paid for them, and we knew that this might happen because of the way the rookies rolled out this year, but there are guys who we spent money on that just aren't returning on investment at this stage. And what do we say a trade's worth? 100k, 50k? What's a trade worth? Because we're not getting a hell of a lot out of these guys in the short term.
No, we're not losing a lot, as there aren't. We've spoken about a few players on the bubble. I don't think any of them beyond Martin are must-haves. But should we? That's the question I want to ask you. Should we look at moving a Ward down to an O'Driscoll, or moving an Alex Davies or the 26, Dill Stevens with 23? These players that didn't do what we wanted them to do. Or do we back the rookies in to bounce back, like Dill Stevens coming off a 90, showed he can do it. Alex Davies has a game that's built around Supercoach. Josh Ward improved on the weekend. His score certainly didn't, but he had more centre bounce time, was given, had more possessions, was given more of a run at it. Do we back these kids in to improve, or do we pull the pin now? I think we back them in.
I'm not worried about Josh Rochelle though.
Neither.
He's a small forward. He's going to have games where he scores 20, 30, 40 points. But then he's also going to have games where he kicks 4 goals off 20 disposals and scores 100 points. So he just needs another round 1 score or another game similar to the way he performed in round 1 to restart his cash generation. And I don't mean to kick a man while he's down, but Adelaide are against Essendon this week.
I mean, I think a great comparison.
It's only a practice match, Damo.
That's true.
His price won't change. It's only a practice match.
I think a great comparison, or not a great comparison, but a solid comparison is James Rowe last year, who round 3 dropped to 40. Then he scored 67, 79, got some cash gen. Then he pumped out a couple of turds, 27, 36, but then he went 81, 80, 71. So you just got to. I agree with you, Damo. It's not alarm bells for Josh Rochelle. He's a guy who's going to be inconsistent. Warden Stevens, I'm inclined, like you, Patch, to back him in. I don't see much point in trading them at this point. No one's screaming out as must trade in rookie options, and their break evens are still so low that they're going to keep making cash, even if they pump out 50s. The only reason I'd be looking to drop them is if they get dropped from their senior team and there is a viable rookie option on the bubble.
Yep, agreed. Just thought we could address it while we were there. Shall we go to the back line now, unless there's any other midfield talking points that we wanted to address?
Now let's go to the back line. Let's start with Jack Crisp, because Damo, you brought him up in the pre-pod meeting, implying that we do work and stuff for this. You brought him up. He's one of the most traded out defenders this week. What are people doing? What should they do?
You got to hold him for now, but it feels like he can't have a good game if Nick Dacos has a good game.
And we certainly want Nick Dacos being the one to have the good game.
We do. We do indeed. And it's unfortunate because Nick Dacos is not going to have too many bad games either, which makes that even more prickly.
Well, what do you do? What do you do if you're a Crisp owner? What's the answer here, Damo?
I mean, Jack Crisp's value is raised by the fact that he's dual position. And I think dual position is going to be very important, especially once we get into the winter months. And everyone is getting sick from being cold and outside. So I'm probably going to cop Jack Crisp. I saw a tweet where someone said Jack Crisp, cop or drop, and I think I'm going to cop him.
I think you look at his run, West Coast this week, which he averages 99 against. Brisbane averages 102 against. Essendon, then Gold Coast, then Richmond. So there's a few games for him to turn his form around pretty quickly, I reckon.
He's going to be frustrating, but I think he's someone we got to hold on to. Even if he ends up being your D6 at the end of the year and he's lost 150k, I don't think that's too much of an issue. We have to remember that Supercoach Mama last year, her D6 was Stephen May. And Stephen May definitely wasn't the picture of consistent scoring.
But he was very cheap when I also bought him in, I think, at the same time. So, yeah, targeting those players is important. But she certainly didn't start him.
No, but she would have gone from a rookie up. She would have gone from a rookie upwards, though.
Yes, yeah, true. True. I don't know, as much as it's sensible, I understand what you're saying. I agree with it at an emphatic level, like a base level. I also really just want to trade him because it's really annoying and there are these defenders around his price point that are scoring really well. Sam Doherty averaging 122, George Hewitt averaging 120, Jaden Short averaging 118.3. Like Aaron Hall, not that I'd ever trade Aaron Hall in because I'd never be able to cop the flack for all the mean things I've said about him. But there are lots of players that are averaging.
Jeremy McGovern, Shannon Hearn.
Yeah, Tom Stewart has had 104, 104, 103.
Jack Sinclair.
I was going to mention Jack Sinclair because he's getting prime midfield time, and that's what we wanted from Crisp, and Crisp isn't scoring. Sinclair is with 100, 114, 116. There are lots of guys that are doing far better, and that T button is so big and red, and I see it when I close my eyes at night.
I don't own him, so yeah, I don't care. I would back him in. And hold him because you remember the guys around him, you can't get the points they've already scored. And I think he looks primed to score well over the next 4-5 weeks. And you can pick apart. You can find reasons not to pick a lot of these guys, like Jack Sinclair. Well, Zach Jones has been back, and apparently he's getting close to a return. And Shannon Hearn and Jeremy McGovern. Well, they play for West Coast, and there should be some players coming back, so the ball should be in the back line a little less. Sam Doherty There's always going to be some question marks over the health. Geez, he looks bloody good though. So there's question marks over all of these guys. And I mean, I would be comfortable with any of them. Equally, I'd be comfortable holding on to Crisp. And worst case scenario, he comes out and scores another 85, 90 this week. He's going to lose some cash for you. His break-even's 115. If he scores 98, he only loses $7,000. That you can cop that for another week.
Yeah, and the same with Lachie Whitfield. I just wanted to play devil's avocado, as is my nature. God, I want to though. God, I want to, and I need to do everything in my power to not hit the big red button.
I'm the same. I've got Lachie Whitfield. I want to trade him, but 96 is okay. He was around about the pill. He looked more like Lachie Whitfield. Then again, it was against Gold Coast, which weren't putting up a hell of a lot of a fight.
No, he was ball adjacent, as the draft doctors would like to say.
Yes, he was ball adjacent. Fellas, I want to jump in to this before we wrap things up. Supercoach released an article today of likely DPP changes. We're 2 weeks away from DPP changes, so that also needs to
excited.
It needs to factor into our thinking because some of these guys are going to be better options than the ones we currently have. So I'll just go through the options, and you guys can speak to them. So locked in for change, Tristan Xerri is going to be forward ruck. I imagine we all have him.
Yeah, boy.
And he's still relatively affordable if you don't, but for sure he's going to be valuable for us. Mason Wood, forward to forward mid, because he's playing on the wing now, and he's actually looking like a footballer.
Incredible. What a time to be alive. Don't think he's incredibly relevant.
Oh, good God, no.
But sure, go off, Mason Wood. I'm happy for you. Genuinely happy for you.
Damo, Angus Brayshaw, who scored 176 on the weekend, is going to gain defense mid eligibility. They've been using him for his intercept ability. I doubted it when they started doing it, but geez, it showed something on the weekend.
I don't think it's going to be a bad selection. We just have to keep in mind that Jake Lever and is going to come back soon, and Michael Hibbard is going to come back soon, and Christian Salem will come back later in the year. And basically, Melbourne's been playing with their B backline for this first part of the season.
Yeah,
they were also playing with their food on Friday night because there was no forward half pressure from Essendon, letting Angus Brayshaw take 20 marks.
That's a lot of marks.
It's a lot of marks.
Jack Sinclair, who we just talked about, will become defense mid eligible. One name they don't have in here, but I'm assuming will happen, will be Mitch McGovern, defense forward, because he's only played in defense. I know he's only played 2 games. I'm not sure how it works, but I'm assuming that means he'll get it.
Can he be defense
bench?
Defense bench or defense injury list, because that's where he'll spend most of his time this year.
Yeah, he's definitely not someone I'm suggesting, just someone I'm remembering. Damo, in the maybe pile, they've got Scott Pendlebury mid to defense mid. Is he someone you would consider as a defender?
As a defender, I would definitely consider him, yes.
A question without notice. How has he been scoring this week? I know he had 1-2-4 on the weekend, but is he performing well for super coaches out there?
He's only had 87 round 1, 105, and then a 124. So, not bad.
Better than Lachie Whitfield, better than Jack Crisp.
He will be relatively expensive for a defender when he gets DPP, so that's one to watch though. Nick Dacos, they're saying he might get mid to defense mid, but that idea that he was going to spend his whole time behind the ball has kind of not happened because he's so damn good, Patch.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that that Collingwood would get a kid that is so damn good, and have a resurgence and be a team that is, dare I say it, good at football and entertaining to watch. And I don't know if I can live in a world where both Carlton and Collingwood fit into that category and Essendon doesn't. But anyway, we're here. Dacos is good. Maybe he gets DPP. I don't think, everyone's got him anyway. I don't think it really impacts what you do with your Supercoach side or your life. But sure, it'd be nice, I guess.
The same probably goes for Jason Horne-Francis, forward mid, and Mitch Hinge, defence mid. In that case, these are two interesting names, though, that stood out in the article. Tom Mitchell, mid to mid
Ooh.
forward. Is this possible? What the hell?
Wowee. Wowee. I mean, it's possible. Like, anything's possible, I guess. He hasn't
Communism
been,
works in theory.
in theory, Marge, averaging 82.7. So he's worse than Lincoln McCarthy, really. Do you want Tom Mitchell, or do you want to just pick Lincoln
Everybody's
McCarthy?
worse than Lincoln McCarthy. That's a moot point.
I just looked at his scores and thought, oh, forward mid, Tom Mitchell, and then realized he hasn't scored out of the 80s yet, and I don't really want him anymore.
Nope. If you've got him, trade him.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
what
been
he's
rough.
doing, but it's not good and it's not
In-
fun. And
Mate, in the first quarter, they used him as a tagger on Paddy Cripps, and Paddy Cripps tore him apart.
that is criminal, and Sam Mitchell should be shot.
Having said that, he did coach, other than that misstep, which probably lost him the game because the first quarter's where they lost it. He did coach pretty well. And Dane Zorko, mid to defense mid. He's interesting because while he keeps going off with Achilles injuries, he's still pumping out like 120s.
Oh, yeah, I loved owning Dane Zorko last season. If he can continue to be not just a midfielder, then I would probably select him in his other position.
He scored a
agreed.
105 on the weekend, got subbed off. He scored a 26 in round one, got subbed off, and a 116 in round two against Essendon.
And had the fan footy big red hurt symbol next to his name anyway.
Yeah. And then the final one that in this article is Andrew McGrath, mid to defense mid, which it seems unlikely that it'll happen, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Patchy.
I mean, there's the risk that, you know, even though Merritt's out, they play him as a more defensive mid. You're seeing with Hewitt that can work and still result in a lot of scores. And at 440k, having a midfielder in the backline would be nice. But he also, scored 76 on the weekend. Scored 58 against Brisbane, and I hardly saw him from the bleachers. I'm not overly thrilled by the idea of Andy McGrath in my Supercoach team.
Well, while we're on the topic of Essendon's midfield.
Oh, do we have to?
Dylan Shield. He's played 2 games. He's got 101 and 100, and he's 360k.
I did flag this at some stage somewhere in a preseason that he's dramatically underpriced. I don't know who you're trading to him or how you're fitting him in, and cannot think of a scenario where I'm like, yeah, I endorse that trade, unless it's maybe like a Tom Mitchell to him and then like a rookie to a Cherry or someone. But like, I don't know how you're fitting him in. His value, he will make a lot of cash. He's good at football, as we saw in that stretch where he somehow tore Melbourne's midfield apart for 5 minutes. I don't see how I fit him in or how you really can consider him.
That's fair. He's just one that I think is worth flagging because it's going to be an interesting watch.
Yeah, if he's on your draft waiver wire, go.
Yeah, go jump on him now. All right, gentlemen, I think we'll wrap things up there. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, as always. I love this 50-minute runtime for the podcast. I don't know if the listeners do, but it feels so good. It feels like we're not rushed, but hey, maybe we're also boring and people stop listening. I'll never know. I'll never find out. Damo, I'll tell you what, you weren't boring. You were bloody brilliant as always.
Oh, thank you very much, Lek. It was great to be out of the WA time warp and here to grace your ear holes again.
Now, Damo, call to action. What do people need to do to hear from you again?
You can comment on any of the posts on the website. We will be looking through them, looking for questions. Try and keep it to the latest ones so that we don't have to go back too far. Or you can tweet at us, or you can comment on any of the posts on our Facebook page or our Instagram page. There is actually a dedicated post on every single social media that we have. Or you can just tweet out or Instagram out or whatever you want to do with the hashtag Jock Mailbag, and me and Clarkey will answer them on the next Mailbag podcast.
Amazing. Love your work as always. Patch,
Hello.
brilliant, majestic. You're certainly the best Essendon adjacent person, in Victoria right now.
I mean, there are many different ways where I could dispute that statement, but I'm not going to. I'm going to appreciate you and appreciate Damo and appreciate our listeners, because the alternative is to go back to crying in the corner about the 0-3 thing. So I'm happy. I'm going to be happy.
That's great. I love happiness and I love you. Thank you for joining me. By the way, shout out to me. I'll shout myself out. First time I've ever registered Supercoach points in an official AFL match.
Yeah, I did see that. That was very exciting. Do you know how many points you were given?
Contested knock on, effective disposal. I'm going to say, how much did Heath Chapman get scaled up in round 1? I'll say I got 20 points.
I think that
for
was 19 points.
I'll take 19. It's more than I'll get in any other game of football.
It was a good knock on. We got to see it on camera. Lekdog tweeted it. If you're confused about what's going on.
Was that your dad sitting next to you that clapped?
Yeah. My dad was sitting next to me. Yeah.
You know what? Lekdog, I also clapped.
I'll tell you what, it was invigorating. For those who have seen my physique, you might be surprised to know that I didn't play much football growing up. I was in the zone. I knew I was tipping that ball straight into Weeders. No time wasting. He got an effective kick out of it, mate. It was exhilarating. 20 years of the football, and I finally got to touch it.
You love to see it. You love to see it. You touched it more than I touched it at fullback for my game, although I was wearing sleeves. So,
hey, so was I.
Take that. We'll take that.
All right, community. It's been bloody beautiful. Enjoy your week. And of course, jump on the website, check out all the good stuff. Go Blues.
Go Dockers.
Don't make me do it.